In this video, I will be talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, predicting its Metacritic score, sales, fanbase reaction, the future of the title, and my own personal expectations. Of course, all my predictions can be wrong and off base, and this is just going to be my own gut feeling if anything. So feel free to come back to this video and tell me just how wrong I am. I actually welcome it. Anyway, let's get started. Final Fantasy VII is a major hitter in the gaming industry. The original on PS1 is widely regarded as one of the greatest RPGs of all time. The game, while dated, has withstood the test of time and people still love it to this day. Final Fantasy VII on PS1 sold over 2 million copies in its first 3 days out in Japan. In its first 3 weeks after release in North America, the game sold 500,000 copies. And going up to the end of 2019 with its re-releases and ports, sales stand at about 12 million, an impressive number for any game that came out more than 20 years ago. With the prestige and following of the classic, the remake should enjoy some high sales, ridiculously high sales. I'm predicting the Final Fantasy VII Remake will sell at least 3 million copies in its first week. Lifetime sales are probably going to be absurdly higher as the remake is only exclusive to PS4 in its first year out. More than likely going to all major platforms, I predict Final Fantasy VII Remake to be ported to Xbox, PC, Switch, and the next generation of gaming consoles or platforms. Also with DLC or extra content being added in its second year on the market. You might be asking, how can Square Enix add DLC to this game when all their efforts should be working on the next part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake? Well, I'm not sure, but I personally wouldn't put it past them. Fanbase reaction. As I mentioned earlier, Final Fantasy VII is regarded as one of the greatest RPGs of all time. While the general consensus is that the game is a phenomenal RPG, over the years I have noticed that the game has gotten a sizable chunk of people saying it's overrated. Nevertheless, I think this is a vocal minority. Final Fantasy VII was praised for its compelling story, likable cast, phenomenal music, and masterful execution of the JRPG genre with its turn-based battle system and customization potential with materia. The remake seems to be changing some of these aspects up quite a bit, probably the most notable being the game will be an action-based game instead of a traditional turn-based RPG we all know and love. This by itself seems to have created quite a fracture in the fanbase and just people who have played the game casually in the past. Square Enix probably opted to go this style of game as they may believe that the turn-based RPG doesn't have worldwide appeal. Sure, turn-based RPGs have their appeal to a good amount of people, and games like Persona 5 have proven that taking turns attacking between the player and the opposition isn't dead. Plus, Square Enix just isn't trying to bank on nostalgia to sell this game. They want this game to hit not only longtime fans like me and you, but also sell to people who have never played the game or aren't even familiar with Final Fantasy. As with Final Fantasy 15, when loading the game, you'll see a message saying a Final Fantasy for longtime fans and new. The Final Fantasy VII name already has worldwide appeal, so giving access to nearly every other player is probably ideal for them. The action-based nature they may have thought was the best way to maximize this potential. The next major change in the remake that has fans divided is its episodic nature. Final Fantasy VII Remake is poised to be spread across multiple games, with this part of the remake only taking place in the iconic Midgar section, a section of the game that is about 2 to 3 hours in the length, being transformed into a full-length game, possibly spanning at least 20 to 30 plus hours. Whatever the case, Square Enix seems to have made the right call on not giving this part of the remake Chapter 1 or Episode 1 in the title, for example, as that could have given some people the idea that they just have to wait a little longer for the next chapter or episode to be released soon. But those of us that know better know Square Enix can take an awfully long time, like years upon years, to get out a major Final Fantasy title or any other big hit game. One thing I'm concerned about is if this remake is in Square Enix's long-term plans. Will they release Final Fantasy 16 in between the releases of the next parts of the remake? Sure, they could have different teams and a different director working on the next major Final Fantasy game, but this company might end up borrowing resources from other projects and personnel to prioritize one game. At the end of the day, I can only see Final Fantasy VII Remake being split amongst the fan base to the people who like and the people who just hate it for what it is. Or after word gets out that the remake is more substantial than what was previously thought, more people might start to come around. As I've seen a good amount of people say that there is no way you can stretch 2 to 3 hours of one section of a game in the original 30+ hours without messing up the story. The way I see it, the Midgar section of Final Fantasy VII has a lot of elements that can be easily expanded by a couple of hours. Like climbing the tower to get to the boss battle with Reno might have been changed substantially enough to offer more content. Plus, I'm certain there will be an encounter and battle with Sephiroth in the game. Metacritic scores. With the mentioned points earlier taken into account and the consensus of the demo leaning towards positive, I predict Final Fantasy VII Remake within its first week from release to have a Metacritic score of about 89 to 92. I don't think this game is going to bomb. It could possibly be review bombed if there is content in it that is controversial. But the critic scores I predict is going to be fairly high. User scores might be a little bit lower from all the split reactions to the changes, and maybe there might be trouble in paradise with the gameplay, but only time will tell in that aspect. At the very least, I expect the user score to be a tad bit lower, hovering around an 8 to 8.3. The future. If Final Fantasy VII Remake does release to critical acclaim, as it seems that is the most likely scenario to play out, we could see 2 or 3 year lifespan of the title. Year 1 of 2020 will see the game's sales hold strong on PS4. Towards the end of the year, we might see a trailer teasing more story content for the title via DLC. We might also see news about the re-release of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII on modern hardware. Year 2 in 2021, Final Fantasy Remake sees ports to various platforms and promote the new story DLC being released. Towards the end of 2021, we'll probably get a re-release of Final Fantasy VII Remake with the story DLC included. Maybe Final Fantasy VII Remake Ultimate Edition or Royal Edition, if you will. Personal expectations. I've been on record saying that Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. It is constantly at odds with Persona 4 and 5 as my #1 JRPG in my head. I expect the remake to be good. After playing the demo, my hype level has calmed down a bit, and I feel like I'll be able to enjoy this game for what it is. Action battle system in a game that is spread across multiple games and all. I enjoyed the Resident Evil 2 remake, and I'm seriously debating with myself if it's a replacement for the PS1 classic. For the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I almost know there will be no such internal debate. I don't believe this game, by the time it is all said and done, will be an adequate replacement for Final Fantasy VII on PS1, but who knows, time could change that. I don't think this game will disappoint me as Final Fantasy XIII did, nor do I think I will completely hate it at first as I did with Final Fantasy XV. I expect some areas and events to be completely new in this first part, and in the next part for certain areas and events to be completely removed. Hopefully, in the confines of this remake, choices like those would be the right call. Hopefully. I expect the next part to be released within 3 years, and that's being extremely optimistic, knowing Square Enix and Tetsuya Nomura. I'm honestly expecting one major controversy to happen with this game. It could be an event that messes with the rest of the story that won't sit well with longtime fans, or something a certain character does or says. Somebody is going to find something to complain about this game, and you will see it in headlines. Now, as I said before, my predictions can be wrong and completely off base, or they could be better or worse based off of all the information that could be released soon, or after doing much more research than what I've done. And again, feel free to tell me just how wrong I was in the comments. I ask that you leave your own predictions on Final Fantasy VII Remake's Metacritic score after a full week of being out. How do you think the fan base will react once the game has been made available to the public, and how well or maybe disastrous the game might sell? It might sell well on paper, but to Square Enix, it might actually be bad numbers. Who knows? Anyway, that is it for this video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Turn on notifications to know when I'm making new videos and when they will be up. And I'll catch you all next time. Peace.